And Tony, I'm excited about the Twin Waters holiday. That'll be great.
Yeah, we just, keep our fingers crossed always for good weather, but yeah, the boys are knocking themselves out, putting lights up and getting everything ready to make it kind of really back to normal if we can. And now we're gonna have a little additional parking, but I think Doug has come up with a good plan to try to ease the parking where we'll have the free shuttle from our properties down at Castaways. And then other people will be able to, buy in passes for the all day type of thing. So it's going to be an interesting situation, a little bit of change up, but the Gatlins.
You ever
are
had to
ready
cancel
play,
that due to weather? Tony, have you ever had to cancel due to weather?
Knock on wood, and I got a lot of wood here. No, we've never had to. So thanks for bringing that up, Jay, but we'll see what happens.
I'm dealing with, we have our yacht club fishing tournament scheduled for tomorrow,
It's
which is
supposed to be rainy, isn't it?
yeah, rainy and windy.
Yeah, so if we had to, if it got like a real severe thing, we would push it back one day to Saturday.
Yeah.
But the only time we came close was one year when it was like probably a half hour when things were over with. Man, we had this thunder and lightning storm come in, but it wasn't as big a deal as it is now where we have outside music and things going on. So we're looking for the Gatlins, and we have a really nice gal. I can't remember her name, the one singing at the pool during the day.
Oh, you're going to have the Gatlins this year?
Yeah, the Gatlins will be there for that ceremony. Then they'll play in the shipyard for a little bit. And then Saturday, they will be playing on the patio of the old Captiva house as well.
Wow.
So it'll be kind of like a dinner show there. So
yeah, I really enjoy that band. I think they're
everybody nobody doesn't just the words.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing how they'll take requests, and I've never heard them hear requests that they didn't know they couldn't play.
Yep. Good people, yeah.
Well, I'm not seeing too many people here yet. We'll wait another couple of minutes before I attempt a roll call. Hey, Linda.
Yes.
Linda Baird.
Yes.
Do you think your team would still come to dinner?
Oh, we're all signed up with and selected our menu items. We're planning. Okay. We're hoping we're going to have an entertaining MC for dinner.
Well, I don't know if there'll be much entertainment. Not going to be a whole lot to talk about if we don't fish, but
oh, you'll figure out something.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the pressure put on. Okay. No, we're all looking forward to it even so.
Okay. But I should assume for right now that you're not going to
unless Ozzy gets back to us and says he wants to, but Ozzy thinks it's going to be 25.
Yeah.
And that it's going to be rough and the fishing won't be good.
Yeah, 25 seems to be the cutoff for most guides.
Okay.
We should start going. We should get going.
Oh. Let's see, what time is it? 9:02. I guess we can start. Well, welcome everybody to the November 14th meeting of the Captiva Community Panel. We'll start off with the roll call. I am Jay Brown. David Mintz.
David Mintz is here. Good morning.
Okay, Linda Laird.
I'm here.
John Jensen.
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm here.
Good, John. Tony Lappy.
I'm here.
Sandy Stillwell.
I'm here.
Good to see you, Sandy. Ann Brady.
Good morning.
Hi, Ann. Marguerite Smith-Maville.
I'm here.
Hi, Marguerite.
Hi, Jay. Good morning.
Bob Walter. Bob Walter, are you here? I guess not. Ken Gill.
Here.
Hi, Ken. And
Hey.
Bruce McDonald.
Here.
Okay, so the only panelist missing is Bob Walter. Hopefully he will be able to join us in a few minutes. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Can I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve, Sandy.
A second?
I'll second, Don.
Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay, let's start on then with the agenda. Starting with this meeting, I'm changing the order of the agenda around a little bit to allow our fire chief and police chief to lead off the meeting, because normally their updates are fairly brief. And sometimes when we have them later on in the agenda, they have to sit around for half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour waiting just to give their brief updates. So to avoid that happening, we will start this meeting off with their updates. So Mike Sawicki, you want to start off?
Well, Mike's
Hi.
on a bit. Hi, how you doing? It's Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Mike's-
How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, Mike's taking a little bit of a deserved vacation there, so
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit of a better looking Mike, but good. Everything's going really well. We don't really have any. We haven't had any reported crimes in the past 2 months on the island. A couple of small parking lot crashes, little fender benders in parking lots and stuff, but that's really about it. Everything's going really well. The visitors are doing really well. Everything seems to be holding up well. The improvements made to a lot of our beach accesses are holding up well. I haven't been made aware of any major citizen concerns. If anybody has anything that I can answer, I'm happy to answer it.
So we haven't had any dock thefts in the last month. I know we had quite a few of them before. Is that pretty much?
there's been none reported to us, and I'd say, and don't completely quote me on it, but I'll probably over 4 months we haven't had any theft report taken. We had one person try to report a bicycle that was stolen underneath one of the buildings in the resort, but it just turned up. I think one of the contractors working on that building used it to ride to another building. So we were able to get it back to her.
One of our wedding parties did steal one of my small new penguins. You know, they weren't live penguins, but it was gone. So I don't think it was worth reporting, but you know, shame on them.
Yeah. Well, I'll say.
Yeah, that is that is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, everything's going really well. Everything's looking really well. I know we just recently did the coastal cleanup. That went well. But yeah, I unless anybody has any concerns or any questions or anything they would like to see from us.
I did one item really just real quick. I did reach out to DOT about putting on those stop for pedestrian in the crosswalks along the driveway here, you know, like they have on Sanibel. I thought that would be a good idea because I've seen people kind of come to the crosswalk and some of these cars, they just do not stop. They keep right on going. So I tried them. I don't know if they came out. I talked to Julian, I think her name was, at DOT, and she said she was coming out. I also told her to pick up the broken sign down there, and I'm about ready to put it in the dumpster because it's been there for a year now.
Yeah, Mike, I know that Mike has been regularly asking them to either repair it or remove it. So I do know that has been a couple of communications that Mike has had with DOT. As far as the signs in the crosswalk go, I mean, I think it's a really great idea. The last I heard from DOT, and it's been since pre-hurricane that I had this conversation with them when Sanibel put them up, is those were not DOT approved signs that they're allowed, because they're not allowed to obstruct anything in the lane or anything in the crosswalk. But that could all change. I mean, DOT might have seen it working on Sanibel, think it's a great idea and adopt it. So,
I'll press them again. I'll reach
yeah.
out to Julian and see what their answer was. Anyways, I think they had somebody out here looking, but that's all I know.
sure, yeah,
Yeah,
they've been.
Tony, I think that's a good idea to have that stop sign in the middle of the road. It's
It
a
would
lot
certainly get
easier
their
to see the,
attention.
lot easier to see the crosswalk and be aware of it, when it's in the middle of the road, as is done in Sanibel.
Especially with kids, I worry
Yeah.
about some young kids skirting out in that street, and some idiot not paying attention and boom, got a tragedy. So,
They
okay,
just, well,
Okay.
they just recently reinstalled the 25-mile-an-hour speed signs. So I know that Christine and I have been running radar. We're averaging about 3 to 4 hours a day, different points during the day, operating radar along that stretch. We haven't really had too many violators. It's been people seem to be paying attention to it when we are running the radar. Obviously our places to park and kind of remain hidden are becoming more and more scarce. But it seems to be effective and seems to be working. So that's about all I got, unless anybody else has any concerns or questions or anything they'd like to see from us coming up for the rest of the month. Any areas of concerns that we can focus on for you?
Well,
Ken,
I'll-
is there anything from the audience?
No.
Jay, there's one issue that I just want to raise to the panel. It's
Sure.
been more than a year since the hurricane, and there's been a proliferation of landscaping signs popping up all over the island. One of our landscapers put up signs in violation, advertising themselves in violation of our code. And then another landscaper facing that competition of signs decided to put up their signs up all along the Captiva roadways where they're working. And these signs violate the code. And, I didn't say anything about it for over a year because of the hurricane, et cetera. But I think at this point, we should have Ken Goodham contact the two landscaping companies that are the major violators at this point and just ask them to remove their signs. There must be dozens and dozens of them up on.
Yeah, that's a good point, David. And I was guilty of that myself for a while. I'd completely forgotten about our sign ordinance and that second sign advertising the landscaping company or building company is against our code. So, yeah, I agree with that. I would say, Ken Gooderham, can you call the landscaping companies? And then perhaps we also should send out a message to our email list reminding people that it's you can't have landscape or building signs up.
Yeah, if you can get me the list of people who are violating, I'll reach out to them.
Ken, I'll give you the two major violators at this point, and then hopefully it'll just stop. They're very generous landscaping companies. They've been very good on the island. I'm not even sure they're fully aware of the code. So I'll speak to you about it and we'll get it done.
Yeah, I know Bob Walsh is one of them that has been putting up signs.
Yeah, well, there's others too. So it's not just them. So, but they have to compete with each other. So when one puts up a sign in violation of the code, then there's a temptation for others to do the same to get business. And I think we just have to deal with it in a good way. That's all.
Okay, David, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, let's move on to Chief Powell. Jeff, are you with us this morning?
He is not.
Oh, he is not with us. Okay. All right. Well, then let's move on to the CEPD update. Daniel Munt.
Hi, everybody. It's John Riegert this morning.
Oh, hi, John.
Just a quick update. So far, we are on schedule to place our upcoming beach nourishment to bid in January. The Bayside adaptation selection conversation that's been tabled to the December board meeting for a decision. And the 2024 board meeting dates have been passed and they have all been posted to the website. If you're interested in finding out any information about the Bayside adaptation, all of the videos from the workshop and yesterday's board meeting have been posted to our website. And you can go
Okay, now
there to
when
find
you
it.
say the Bayside selection, you're talking about the large consulting study that
Yes,
to identify weaknesses and conceptual solutions, the
Yes.
preservation of the Bayside long term.
yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it. Board meeting was pretty quick, pretty
Okay.
focused.
Linda, do you have anything you want to say on behalf of CEPD?
No, I think well, yes, I'm going to say something. So yes, I think we all recognize the importance of the decision we're making, because it's going to probably be one of the most important decisions CEPD makes over the next 5 years, which is to select this company who will partner with us to protect the Bayside. So we're taking our time on it, doing our due diligence, and hopefully doing the best we can. One other thing of note is, though, that Carrie Schumann is leaving, for which we'd like to thank her for her
Is
service.
she leaving SCCF or?
She's leaving SCCF to take another position, which sounds like it's career advancement and better for her personally. So we wish her very much the best. And we thank her very much for the service she has done to us, which has been tremendous and helped us move this along.
Yeah, she has completed a number of projects, write-ups and so forth that I have found to be very helpful. So we will miss her. I'm sorry to hear that she's leaving. Does she have a date when she's going to leave, or?
Carrie, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, sorry, I had to actually run out, so I didn't realize.
Oh,
you'd
it's
already-
okay.
I am here until November 27th, so it is coming up quite fast. And then I start my new job on December 4th.
Will this involve you moving and leaving the area, or?
No, not necessarily. So I'm going to be working with the Conservancy of Southwest Florida in Naples, and I'm going to be doing some remote work, so it makes sense to, and I just resigned my lease in August. So, it's no small thing, I think, to move nowadays. So for now, I'm staying put, and then I'll kind of assess as I go. So
Okay, well, we will miss the contributions you've been making since you've been with the SCCF. Sorry to see this happen.
Yeah, no, I appreciate.
AJ, I had a question.
Yes.
For CEPD. So I think you said that the bids are going out for the renourishment project here in January. What's that?
I was saying, sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt. That is on what the plan schedule is. Yeah.
And so what's our expectation in terms of timing of them doing the actual renourishment?
So when we put out the bid, we're going to put out with the expectation that we would hope they get this done before the next hurricane season. But it really depends on the contractor's response to the bid request and what their availability and their schedule is.
But we are fully committed to getting it done before John's taking a more risk-free approach on that answer, but we are trying to get it started in somewhere between March and June, I believe. I don't remember exactly. It may be that we will do it at different times to save some money, and we have to worry about the turtles always. But part of the criteria is their ability to start. Assuming we can get our sand and things like that, I'm hoping for something before the season. We're all committed to that, to protecting the island. We haven't put out the bid before. You may think, why is it taking so long? Well, first we had to get the funding, and now we're doing the engineering study. Aptum is doing the engineering study of the beach to understand exactly where we need the sand and what the profile should be. We're going to, it seems like we need more on the north end, if I remember correctly. And also we're going to be trying to put up the dunes a little bit. Like it used to be, we could only go 8 feet high. Now we're allowed, I believe, to go 11 feet high since we've had this last storm. We will try to go as high as is practical.
And
Okay.
and you guys may have noticed the surveyors were out about 2 weeks ago collecting data. So they're still sorting through all that data at the
Okay.
moment.
And then I think the last meeting I asked this question, and I forget, I think you guys were gonna look into it, was does the CO replantings, does that have to wait until the renourishment's done, or can that be
Yes.
done sooner?
Yeah, that has to be done after the construction is performed, because we will be adding sand onto the dune. So then we would have to
Okay.
plant after that.
Got it.
There is also something we found out at the FSBPA conference where we could get a reimbursement on some of the plantings, when we allow the company to come and harvest the sea oats to replant.
Okay. So the plan is then we'll end up increasing the height of the dunes by up to 3 feet. Is that correct?
So that's going to go with permitting. We will have to clear that with DEP, but that is the plan, is that we're going to try to secure it as much as possible.
Okay. Because there's a lot of vegetation that's not sea oats. I'm thinking like sea grapes and stuff like that.
There's quite a mix of vegetation, the railroad vine and other sorts of dune vegetation that does help.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking about like where someone's got a lot of sea oats, if we pile 3 feet of sand on top of it. I mean, I know we need to do it, so
So sea oats are actually quite a resilient species. That we can put a bit of sand on top of them and they will grow through the sand, as long as they're not buried all the way down underneath.
Okay. Okay.
And and what we want is a diverse set of plants out on the dunes for all the regular biodiversity, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just sea oats. We're hoping to encourage other plants as well.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Thank you.
In terms of Carrie's leaving, she is irreplaceable, but we have someone who's coming in, Paul, what's his last name, John?
Tritech.
Tritech.
He used to work at the Ding Darling Refuge.
He was the head of Ding Darling.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a consultant for us for a while. We'll try and before we buy. But so far I've been pleased in that he knew more about Captiva than I did. And so that was good.
Okay. Are we still anticipating that the redo of the beach will be able to be done without assessment of the private property owners?
We are hoping so, and if it does come down to that, it will be very minimal, because we granted quite a bit of emergency rebuild funds.
And also we've been doing a good job of investing the money we have in our reserve. So we're playing some hedge games, if you want to know the truth.
Okay.
No hedges, it's all FDIC.
It's true. And I like it because we're making some money on the money, which only benefits the residents of the island.
Okay, does anybody have anything else for CEPD? All right, then let's move on to
Actually, Jay, Jeff, Chief Powell has shown up.
Oh, okay. Jeff, as you requested, I moved you up into the start off the meeting up at the front of the agenda. So
yes,
if you're prepared to give us a report, have at it.
Yeah, thank you for moving me up, and then I was late, so I appreciate that, Jay. Thank you. Yeah, we're doing new hire testing and interviews today, so I was trying to break away, but I was a little late, so I apologize. But I do have some very exciting news to share with you. I mean, albeit it's not really my doing by any means, but we've met with the Rauschenberg Foundation and specifically Ann Brady and the foundation over there. And they are gracious enough on their property, and we found a way to reinstate a landing zone
Oh, terrific.
on the previous property. So going forward, so obviously we're very thankful for that as far as a public agency goes, and I'm sure you guys as residents and owners out here will be, happy about that as well. So we've been working on that location and everything else, and I think we're looking sometime in the first quarter of next year. Hopefully, by the time they kind of move through their landscaping process and everything else, which I don't see any issue with that, because we still have one that South Seas has made temporarily available to us in that same general area. So timing of it should be perfectly adequate for what we need. So just obviously a big thank you to the Rauschenberg Foundation for making that happen for us.
Okay, well, that's terrific. Thank you, Ann, so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah.
Other than that, that was my big update. So I don't have anything else unless you guys have any questions for me right now.
Hey, Jeff, it's Bruce McDonald here. A question for you with the lane restrictions coming onto the island over the weekends. Do you guys have a contingency plan in the event you need to get someone off the island?
We do, and it's actually happened twice now on Sanibel. We haven't had a major instance where it's affected us yet.
Okay.
But basically, we have contacts within DOT and the construction team that they can shut down traffic and causeway on the island there in order to get either, whether it's an ambulance or other fire trucks or whatever the emergency vehicles are that have to get across. So we have processes in place to make that transition a little easier. Obviously, it does still take time and there is a lot of traffic. So even with our processes, it is still going to slow things down, unfortunately. But we do have measures in place to make that smoother for us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Let's move on to a report from SCCF. Carrie, are you going to handle that, or is Matt around?
I'll take it, Jay. I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Matt.
Hi. Everyone's doing good this morning. I don't have much of an update. Just want to reiterate what Linda already said. We're sorry to see Carrie go, but happy she's moving on to good things and staying in the area. So she won't be more than a phone call away, hopefully. As far as what we're looking at this week, there's not a whole lot going on. We're happy to see the lake dip below 16 feet. So it is slowly coming down. As long as it stays dry, like we hope it does, then we should be able to get it down. We're worried that it's not going down as quickly as we'd like it to see. So we're only getting about 650 CFS from the Army Corps when we could be taking 2,000 and still be within optimal range right now. So we're trying to help the Army Corps get there, but they're pretty static in their decision at this point. So hopefully that lake will come down. Hopefully it'll stay dry and we can avoid the worst of it. But that's all I got.
Okay, but we do need a certain minimal level of flow, don't we, for to keep the content of the water in its optimal range? Or
Absolutely, yeah, we need to push the salinity gradient out into the estuary, but with the lake as high as it is, we're not at risk of being cut off anytime soon. So we're at the other end of the spectrum right now.
Okay. Anything else, Matt?
That's all for me.
Okay, does anybody have a question for Matt? Anybody from the audience? All right, Matt, thank you. Next up, I hope we would have an update from for South Seas from Bob Walter, but Bob wasn't here when we went through the roll call. Ken, is he signed on or is he still MIA?
Still not here.
Okay, well, if he comes on, let me know and we'll go back and get a South Seas update from Bob if he does appear.
I have a question for the group.
Yes.
I thought when we talked about the water park that it was only going to be open to guests of South Seas. someone was telling me yesterday, no, that's not true, that others are going to be allowed in. Does anybody know?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything regarding that.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
aren't they gonna sell memberships?
Yeah, that's what I
I
thought.
remember him
Yeah.
saying they're gonna have these memberships. So if you're a member, you may not be a resident in there, but you could be a member and go,
Yeah.
that's my
Oh,
guess.
that-
And I don't know. I'm just reiterating what I thought I heard months
Yeah,
ago.
Yeah,
didn't-
no, I think you're right, Tony. I think they plan to sell memberships to use the resort. At least I know that was said at some points, historically. So when you're hearing it might be available for people outside the resort, I would take that, as Tony says, to mean people that have membership to use the amenities of the resort.
There was a comment from a member of the audience saying that it's resort guests only.
Okay. All righty. Let's move on to the next topic. David, you want to give us a summary of what the current status is of our land use issue with Lee County Board of County Commissioners, where we stand legally, overall legal strategy, and whatever else you think is appropriate to share with the community.
Sure, I will do that. As people know, we've been trying to update the community in the most transparent and open way possible, advising everyone of what's going on. SCCF, the Captiva Community Panel, and the CCA regularly put out legal updates to the community as those legal updates are required and as things change. So I'm assuming that most everybody has seen and is up to date on what's been transpiring, but I will summarize it briefly. After the state issued its comment that it believed that the plan amendment, which was under the guise of resiliency, was really a false flag for increased density at South Seas. After that statement came out from the state, the county responded almost immediately. And it's created a bit of a stir over the last couple of weeks, which may have caused the hearing, which was going to take place on November, I think it was November 8th, was now changed and adjourned to December 6th. And so the county will be meeting and holding a public hearing to decide whether to adopt the plan amendments, not the code amendments, but the plan amendments that eliminate building heights on Captiva from the Captiva plan. That is now scheduled for December 6th at a public hearing. As I've explained to you before, you can't change the land development code to increase density and building heights on South Seas and the rest of Captiva until you amend the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan is the overriding document, and that document limits heights on Captiva to 28 feet above base flood elevation and limits buildings to 1 and 2 story buildings. So unless you eliminate and change that plan, you can't implement the land development code, which allows for greater density and greater building heights. So those
David, what they had 2 meetings in September back to back. I thought the day 2 meeting was to change the plan amendments, but you're saying that they still have yet to change the amendments to the plan.
At the September 6th meeting, they voted to on a preliminary basis to amend the plan to eliminate 1 and 2 story limitations of building heights on Captiva and to eliminate 28 feet above base flood elevation. But to change the plan, you have to first send the proposed plan amendments, which they voted on September 6th. You have to send them to the state for comments. Once the state makes comments, which the state did in claiming that it may be a false flag, for increased density, because the plan amendment, the summary of the plan amendment that was sent to the state was that we needed to eliminate and change the plan amendments, change the plan in order to allow people to build back more resiliency, more resilient in a more resilient manner. And that is not what the plan amendments do. They eliminate
Right.
the lots of Captiva. So the state came back with that comment. And once the state sends the comments back to the county then has to set an adoption hearing, which is now scheduled for December 6th. And at
Okay,
that
so
point-
then presumably, the purpose of this hearing is to make public the state's comments and perhaps rethink what they want to do based on what the state comments were.
I mean, that's one possibility. The other possibility is that they just ignore the state comments and pass the plan amendments as proposed on September 6th, or anywhere in between those two options. So the point is that the county has another opportunity to revisit this issue, to take into consideration the comments from the community of Sanibel and the community of Captiva, and maybe rethink what they had intended to do. But we do not know that at this point. What we know is the exchange of letters and comments and legal statements that took place between the time that the county issued its comments, calling it a false flag, and today. And when, after the county issued its comment, the Department of Commerce issued its comments not accusing, but basically suggesting that it may be a false flag operation, the county issued an 8-page letter back to the state, basically claiming about 3 or 4 things. They claimed that the state had no legislative authority to issue that letter. They claimed that they should not have considered citizen input, which they did. We had a conversation with the state prior to their issuance of that letter. And the county was suggesting to the state that they should not have considered citizen input. They also suggested that they should have consulted the county before issuing any negative comments. And finally, they said that the state had no business reviewing the issue of density that the county was considering. What was most interesting about the 8-page letter that went from the county to the state is that at no point in that letter did they contest the state's primary concern, which is that there was going to be an increase of density on Captiva after a hurricane. And what the county was saying is that we needed these plan amendments not for density, but we needed it for making buildings more resilient. And the county basically saw through that and said, that's not what this is about. But the county in its 8-page letter did not comment on that.
Right.
Dispute that. And what we said in a letter that went out is that the county's silence on that issue was deafening. Because I think there's really no way around the argument when you exempt South Seas from the density limitations of 3 hotel units per acre specifically, you write except South Seas, and you accept South Seas specifically from the building heights that apply to everywhere else on Captiva, that you obviously, the purpose of this is obviously to allow potentially for more increased density in building heights. And I think the state saw that. But
Right.
in response to the county's letter, our attorney for the Protect Captiva Coalition issued a letter basically reminding the county that that at the hearings where these code and plan amendments were adopted back in September, that Commissioner Ruane stated that he had asked for resiliency options and then ended up getting increased height and increased density options from the county staff, and that he, quote, found that offensive. So for the county to be saying that there's no increase in density and building heights when the commissioner basically said he was offended by what came back was obviously an issue that had to be considered by the county. Our attorney also was mentioned to the county that in their transmittal letter to the state, they should have attached all the comments from our Captiva residents and Sanibel residents, including the resolutions from the Sanibel City Council, which were not sent to the state. and our county attorney also, in response to the county saying the state had no business considering these issues, our attorney made it clear that it's a state responsibility to make sure that people can evacuate barrier islands in the state of Florida in a safe manner. And this was definitely a major concern for them. In response to that letter, the county issued a 5-sentence email to the state and to our attorney, basically saying that there is no changes in the Captiva's hotel or residential regulations, period, and that the amendments did not change that at all. And that
That's patently false.
it's patently false, because the Captiva, when you exempt a property owner, single property owner, from the density limitations and height limitations, you're obviously changing the regulations. And it was obviously false. And our attorney explained that again to the state, again explained it to the county commissioners, and also explained not only that their exemptions were specifically put in, which created a change, but he also noted to the county that the Timbers Resort has already advised other owners on South Seas that they intend to put in planned development, which will increase building heights and increase density based on the changes in the code. And the other thing that our attorney reminded the county of is that the deputy county attorney at the June 6th meeting, when this issue first arose, said that, and I quote, "South Seas would like to be accepted from the density limitation and go through the public hearing process to request density in accordance with their future land use category. The Captiva code has a hotel density of 3 units per acre. The future land use category has no limitation for planned developments on the number of hotel rooms." So it is clear that what is intended to do here. So our attorney basically stated that the county's claim that this doesn't increase density on Captiva is just not a credible statement. Finally, the attorney for Protect Captiva placed a public records request in to the county, asking for all communications between the county and agents of South Seas, Timbers, Wheelock Street Capital, and the Ronto Group regarding any development or changing in the building codes. And that request was made, and the county is now in the process of responding and providing us all the communications between South Seas and the county that took place in the months prior to our being aware of these changes being made. And we need to have this information if we proceed with any further litigation.
Right. Is the county legally required to provide those communications?
Yes, yes. Under the public information law, yes, they are required, and they have been cooperating in collecting that information and providing it to our attorney. So on December 6th, there will be a hearing. The Protect Captiva coalition will be sending out to everyone notice about that hearing, where and when, what we would like people to do at that hearing, what the issues are that will be pending, and that will be coming out in the next couple of days. So the first thing that we have to try to do is, once again, if possible, get our county commissioners to listen to the concerns of the residents of Captiva and basically do not pass these plan amendments. But that would be December 6th. If the plan amendments are passed on December 6th, then we move more into the litigation mode. And there are a number of litigation possibilities that we're contemplating at this point. One is an equal protection violation under the federal constitution, because as everybody is aware, the county's code amendments and plan amendments provide a special benefit for one single property owner on the island of Captiva. They grant that single property owner greater building heights, potentially up to 75 feet above base flood elevation, and unlimited amount of hotel density. We don't know what they would approve, but there's no longer limited to 3 units per acre. That doesn't apply. That exemption obviously doesn't apply to to, Twin Waters or Jensen's or any other resorts on Captiva. It doesn't apply to the other private property or homes on the rest of Captiva. And so there is an equal protection claim that is there, and that is being seriously reviewed at this point. In addition, there are also elements of our comprehensive plan and the code which contradict these amendments. And so there may be a basis, and when I say maybe, I'm not in a position to specifically tell you what the lawyers are planning, but there may be a violation of the code, other elements of the code in the plan that are in contradiction with the plan and code amendments that are now being proposed. So there is room for further litigation. And then finally, if and when South Seas or Timbers submits a planned development application, which will include increased density and increased building heights, the Protect Captiva Coalition will intervene in that process, which is basically a rezoning process where South Seas will request, and we will finally find out what their development plans are. But we as a community can intervene in that process. We can contest the ability to increase density and heights based on our wastewater infrastructure, based on our drinking water infrastructure, based on our evacuation routes, based on all the elements that will need to be met in order to do any development on South Seas. And that process goes before a hearing officer, and that can take place over a fairly long period of time. It includes witness testimony, studies, et cetera, et cetera. And the Protect Captiva Coalition, all of us are planning to participate in that fully. So that's basically an overview of where we are at this point. I hope everybody, I'm sure, who's been reading this was aware of that, but I just wanted to make it clear. Ken Suarez, who is the chairman of the homeowners associations and condos associations on South Seas, has been, as you know, working fully with our coalition. He's been extremely supportive, as have all the associations on South Seas who are unhappy with any increased density and building heights. With us today, but Ken Suarez couldn't be with us today at this meeting, but with us today is Michael Bell. I don't know if he has anything he would like to say. Michael Bell is the attorney who represents the timeshare owners on South Seas. And frankly, I knew somewhat about South Seas, but I wasn't aware that there are thousands upon thousands of timeshare owners on South Seas who also have been following these developments very closely and have also been very supportive of the coalition opposing any increases in heights and density. Michael, I don't know if you wanted to say anything at this point.
Just to kind of let the board know that, yeah, there's about 6,500 fee simple title owners. Actually, it's the largest group of title owners on South Seas. I think we could probably disclose, I mean, obviously we're not going to disclose all the stuff we're doing with Timbers right now for negotiations, but we have been in active negotiations to try to work out an amenity situation with them. It's been a very daunting process. I think it would be okay to disclose. So yeah, there's not a lot of support from the timeshare property owners, if any. Obviously, they want to have what they used to have with Blackstone and the prior companies, but there's a lot of unknowns, obviously. I was interested to hear that there's a potential for outside usage of the water park. Not that that's the case or not, but it just was interesting that it may be an issue. Obviously adding to the traffic flow going through the village. But yeah, we are obviously extremely interested in the community panel and are very supportive of everything you guys are doing. So we're going to continue to stay involved as much as possible and continue to try to resolve the issues we have with Timbers as best as possible. And if not, we'll just have to move in a different direction.
All right. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah,
Jay,
thank you for that.
Are there any questions regarding what's been taking place since September to now? and coming up to the December 6th hearing from the panel members. Yeah.
Hey, David, this is John.
I hear you.
Hey, I think I know the answer to this, but an islander asked me, has Greg from Timbers ever been invited by you or Jay to just talk and, you know, as a, what do you got going on? What, and just to talk it out a little bit.
Well, you mean at a panel meeting or?
Either that or just one-on-one, either like.
No,
Jay...
I've never received any invitation from anyone at Timbers to discuss this. And of course, you know, throughout this process, you know, we've been receiving updates from Bob Walter.
Yeah.
You know, who is, you know, currently a panel meeting. So, you know, there's been an opportunity, you know, virtually at every panel meeting for, you know, Timbers to convey information to us about what their plans are through Bob Walter's report. But,
yeah,
you know, we've never had that.
Yeah. And Greg hasn't come forward at all, obviously, to
I can say even more than that. I think Timbers has made it clear to the South Seas, other South Seas owners, and to the community as a whole, that they were not going to reveal their plans. They didn't feel they wished to reveal their plan development or what they want to build or how they want to build it, other than what they've said publicly, until the county adopts the plan amendments and the code amendments. I mean, I think that's been a problem all along. If South Seas or Timbers would have put in a plan development where we all knew what they were doing, and if they would ask for variances or deviations to the extent they needed them, then we would have known what we're dealing with. But what the county did is they put the cart before the horse and did it backwards, and basically exempted them from all height and density limitations or significant density and height limitations without knowing what it is they wanted to build. In the problem. And on one occasion, I have had a direct conversation with a principal of Timbers, and there was no interest at that point until the county finalized what it was doing in sitting down and discuss it. I've actually had a conversation in passing with the planner, engineer for South Seas, and asked if there was any room for negotiations, any room for compromise. And yeah, he did not believe there was at this point. I know there's been a lot of discussion, but Jay and I did have a meeting with one of the principals back when, way before the hurricane, with South Seas and with Timbers and with their other owners. And it was clear to us at that point that they were looking for increased density and increased heights even back then.
Oh.
Now the meeting David is referencing, we had a meeting with I don't know whose phone that is. Excuse me a minute. I think that might be mine. Let me silence it. I'm sorry, everybody.
I can summarize what Jay was going to basically say.
Okay.
Which is that early on, there was a meeting set up because Commissioner Ruane wanted to incorporate the South Seas into the sewer project so that we could close down the FGUA plant in the mangroves. And therefore, everybody could have their wastewater processed at the Donex plant, which had the capacity. Because Commissioner Ruane did not feel that that wastewater treatment plant run by FGUA had a future that would be protective of Captiva. And at that meeting, basically, what we were told by the chairman or the CEO of the Ronto group, who was at that meeting. Ronto is the group that builds the condominiums and does the construction for South Seas. It's one of the 3 owners. He basically said to us that they would consider joining the sewer project in exchange for the panel agreeing to increase density and increase heights for South Seas. And at that point, Jay said, there's nothing to discuss here. We have a code, we have a plan that's been in effect on Captiva. It's worked in terms of density and building heights, and we're not about to trade that for you being part of a sewer project. And that meeting ended fairly abruptly at that point. Jay, I just summarized what you.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize to everyone that I wasn't able to find my phone in time to silence it. But David, you covered the meeting we had with
Yes.
Ronto Group and Carl Baracco.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Tony? Yeah.
Yeah, one question real quick. At this meeting in December, the proposal is all about the height, correct?
It is about the plan amendments. I mean, this is the irony of it. Kevin Ruane in January asked the county staff to look at anything in the comprehensive plan, which is a multi-100-page plan for all of Lee County, that would prevent people from building back after a hurricane and allowing them to build back safely, okay? And meeting new base flood elevation, et cetera. The only 2 changes that the staff found in the whole Lee County comprehensive plan were 2 changes in the Captiva section of the plan, which limits heights to 1- and 2-story buildings on Captiva and limits the height to 28 feet above base flood elevation. And those are the 2 amendments to the plan, only 2 amendments of the plan that are being proposed by the county to make Lee County more resilient. And those 2 changes are what the county sent to the state that provoked the false flag comment. And those are the 2 changes, Tony, that are going to be adopted or not adopted at the December 6th meeting. And those are basically changes that remove the building height limitations for Captiva from the plan. Once those 2 amendments are passed, there is nothing in the plan that limits specifically building heights on Captiva. And then you go to the code, because there's no overriding limitation, and you go to the code, and the code allows for an exemption for South Seas to the 28 feet above base flood elevation, allows them to go up to 75 feet, and eliminates the 3 units per acre of hotels. You can't increase density and building heights in the code on Captiva unless you eliminate the building heights, because how do you increase density if you can't go higher?
Yeah, David, I get that. Now the question being, would the BOCC have any invitation to say, okay, instead of unlimited height, could they put a restriction? In other words, I think I've asked you once before, when we go down to Land's End, what the height of those buildings are. In other words, are those in current violation, or?
They are
No,
not.
those are grandfathered.
Right, exactly, Jay. And my point of being is, could the BOC say, okay, you can go to a height, but only the height, not any larger or higher than what the other grandfathered ones are in? I mean, that to me, I'm kind of a let's get it done, but I'm on density, I'm sold 100% on not giving them that density thing. But in terms of resiliency and height, I'm saying if you went up as high as what's already there, is that a bad thing or not? I don't know how the BOCC reacts, or if South Seas would even think about that. It's just a comment I have, David. So I'd appreciate your thoughts on that.
The answer to your question is yes. The BOCC could change the plan to put in different building heights for, say, South Seas than the rest of Captiva. Or they could just eliminate the heights from the plan And then when a planned development comes in, they could set any building heights they think is compatible with the rest of Captiva.
Okay.
The problem is that under the code and the plan, if the amendments pass, is that South Seas will have, I believe, as a matter of right to go at least 45 feet above base flood elevation. And you have to remember, Tony, under the current Captiva, I mean, in all fairness to South Seas now is governed by their administrative interpretation, which is basically 35 feet above grade or 42 feet above sea level. We've been telling them all along that they should amend that to be the same as the rest of Captiva, which would be 28 feet above base flood. The base flood elevation at the north end where the hotels are, they're saying to us now is 18.5 feet. So if you have 18.5 feet as base flood and you'd had the Captiva code in place, that would be 28 feet to the middle section between the eaves and the peak of the roof. So 18 and 28 is what? Is 38, 48, 56. Plus you get some amount above to the peak. You're already higher than Land's End.
Thanks, David.
Question, it's 2 questions.
Yeah.
One, so at the beginning, you were talking about this back and forth between the state and the county. Who has ultimate authority here? Or I'm not sure how to ask. Yeah, is this county in charge? Is the state in charge?
The county. The county makes the final decision. They take into consideration the state's comments. The county has the final decision. But what the state said to the county in its letter, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but it basically says in its letter is that they should take into consideration our comments because these comments can be used in the future if the plan amendments are challenged by the community. So if in fact the county ignores the state's comments, and if in fact the Captiva, litigates this, one of the pieces of evidence would obviously be the state's letter.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay,
David.
got it. Another question.
Go ahead, Linda.
So it surprised all of us, and it appears it surprised 1 out of the 4 commissioners when the planning, the new regulations came out. To me, that sort of sounds like there was some sunshine violations in terms of collusion among, I shouldn't use that word.
No, there were no sunshine violations unless the county commissioners were meeting between themselves, which I'm not aware of any evidence of that. South Seas or their agents, their lawyers or their planners, they have every right to meet with the county commissioners individually. They have a right to meet with the county staff and to lobby and to, advocate for their needs. The problem we had is that the Captiva Community Panel, obviously, which drafted the code and plan amendments, were not made aware of any of that until it became public on June 1st. And that's when we found out what those amendments were. So there's no question in my mind, speaking personally, that there was a lot of discussion between representatives of Timbers and South Seas and the county staff, county attorney's office, and the county commissioners prior to us being aware of it. But I don't think that's illegal. It just was wrong. We are the community organization that was asked by the county to prepare these amendments, to review them on a regular basis, to review our plan and code. And these changes were made without any consultation with us.
So if Ruane asked them to do one thing and then they did something else, probably directed by other commissioners. I don't know. Whatever. Okay.
That's basically right. I'm gonna
And
just
so-
go back to what I told Tony a minute ago. If you
Okay.
take 18 and a half and 28, it's 46 and a half, not 50. And so you go to the roof, you're really over 50 feet, which is still higher than Land's End and my understanding than even Bayside Villa, which is even higher at that point. But in answer to your question, the Captiva Community Panel has made it clear that anything that would make the new constructions more resilient without increasing density was something we would consider. But the issue primarily here is that the heights have been changed to allow for increased density.
Well, for increased stories, but David, I'm just wondering if is there any opportunity to be any clearer that the community, would be is supportive of changing the height language to assure that that heights would be measured from now current base flood elevation?
No, we could not be any clearer.
Okay, so you don't think there's, because they, South Sea's perennial argument is what they say is publicly, well, we just want to be able to build back what we had, and the base elevations have changed, and so we can't build back what we had before. That's basically what they've been, saying to people.
Yes, I don't know how to be any clearer about this. We have made it as clear as possible that we support people building back what they had before. And no matter how high it takes you to meet current FEMA base flood elevations, we would support it. And we made it clear to the county that any ambiguity in the build back provisions should be cleared up so that there's no ambiguity there. We've made it clear repeatedly. I can tell you that the build back issue is a red herring.
Right. Well, I know it is.
With that, and the issue now is how much you can build different than what you had before. That's really what's at stake here, is how many new hotels you can build, how dense those hotels, how many new hotel rooms you can have, and how high you got to go in order to get those new hotel rooms. That's what we're fighting over at this point. And we're chasing a ghost because we really don't know what South Seas is planning to do or what they would like to do. And they don't want to be explicit until the county passes the code and plan amendments that eliminate the ceiling on hotel room density and on heights. That's just what it comes down to. And look, this is not personal. What this comes down to is a vision of Captiva. Do we want to keep Captiva where the trees are higher than the buildings? Or do we want the buildings to be able to go higher than the trees? Do we want to keep Captiva the way it is, or do we want it changed? And that's a difference of view. It's a difference of policy. It's a difference of opinion. And it's a difference of a developer coming in and wanting to maximize its development. I understand it. They're private equity. They want to maximize their profit. Jay, we talked about this a lot.
Right.
They're going to do what they can do and what they can get past. And we as a community have a different view of that. And that's what's going on here, is a different view of what our community should be going forward.
Okay, but I think also, this whole thing tends to focus on building heights, but I think people have to keep in mind that one of the important changes here is in our current density regulations, hotel rooms count as density.
Correct.
And if Lee County passes the changes they want, hotel rooms would no longer be counted in terms of density.
That is correct.
So, previously, South Seas, I believe, had 107 hotel rooms.
They had 107 hotel rooms and they had 140 employee housing units, which been taken down prior to the hurricane, and they could build 140 condos or hotel rooms or whatever they want. They have 247 units. They want to remove the hotel rooms from that 247 unit.
Which in effect means that the fact that hotel rooms are no longer going to be counted, what they previously had as 107 hotel rooms can now be replaced by 107 new condominiums.
Correct.
Or houses or whatever, in addition to building a new hotel with an unlimited number of hotel rooms.
If it's passed by the county board of county.
This is passed by the county. So folks, this is not just a height issue, it's very much also a density issue.
I mean, what South Seas has said in a publication is that they have 107 hotel units at the north end. They want to build at least 175 in place of that 107. That's what they said in the business magazine. So right there, there's 175 hotel rooms. And according to the plan amendment and the code amendment, those 175 hotel rooms would not count as part of your density calculation.
So therefore, they were limited by the fact previously that they had 107 hotel rooms, which were previously counted as density. Those would no longer be counted as density, which would then free up the opportunity for them to build another 107, buildings.
That is correct. And that's different than Twin Waters. So if Twin Waters was destroyed, God forbid, in a hurricane, and they wanted to rebuild their hotel rooms, they would either build back what they had, but if they were building something new, it would be 3 hotel units per acre, hotel rooms per acre. That's right. That's correct.
Well, David, thanks for that summary. It's just very hard for me to understand how Lee County, given orders by one of their commissioners to review how we can improve resiliency on Lee County, that the county staff's answer to that is to change building heights and density for South Seas. I mean, with everything we have in Lee County, that's the recommendation they come back with. It's just hard to understand.
No, it isn't. Do other counties, is there other fussing and feuding between counties in the state? Is this an ongoing thing that happens all the time, David, or is this unusual?
No, I think it's happening in Lee County. I mean, there was a proposed development, which was, I believe, was Commissioner Greenwell's development project.
Yes.
In Lee County, and it was originally approved, I believe, by the magistrate or the hearing examiner to go up to 65 feet. And I think the Board of County Commissioners, and Sandy would know this, reduced it to 45 feet, I think, at a Board of County Commissioners meeting. Notwithstanding I could get this wrong, but notwithstanding the recommendation of the hearing officer, and notwithstanding the hopes of Commissioner Greenwell, but it was reduced by the county commissioners based on community opposition. In Siesta Key, I believe, there was a hotel that was being built or proposed to be built that the local commissioners agreed to be much higher. It was challenged by a single woman who lived in that neighborhood, and it was defeated, and the courts basically said you can't build that high. It violated the plan. I think this takes place all over the state and in other states. And I think this is not that unusual. What's unusual in our situation is that we live on a barrier island right after it was destroyed by a hurricane. and the changes were made without any discussion with anybody who lives on the island. That's where this is really very awkward and very difficult.
One more question. So I know that if developers feel they're hurt, they have to do lawsuits to get what they want, then the community has to pay. We're going to spend a lot of money on this. Is there any, assuming, let's say we're going to win, can we get any of our funds expended back either from the county or from Timbers?
Well, I'm not quite sure the assumption of your question. I mean, if we litigate and we sue the county and we intervene in the plan development process, we will pay our attorneys to represent us as we would in any lawsuit. And we will raise legal funds from the community. And I can tell you this community has been extremely generous with contributions to the legal fund. And I don't think there'll be any reasonable limitation on the legal funds that we'll be able to have donated for this cause from our community.
But I guess I'm asking, can you ask for damages based upon the amount of money we have to pay for our lawyers?
No.
Yes?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
I don't know this stuff.
No, we will, if we win and we keep our building heights and our density as they have been for decades, then we will have a victory and we will protect Captiva. And I don't think damages will be important. I think what will be important is what we did for the community.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, David, that's a wonderful and very comprehensive report. Does anybody have any questions of David on the panel or from the audience before we move on to the next topic?
Let me just say, Jay, I apologize for my not being on the screen. I was going to tell everybody my camera on the computer is not working, but that's not really why. I went to the dermatologist and they did some work.
Oh, let us have a look at your surgery.
And I looked like Frankenstein looks before they took off the bandages. And I just was going to expose you to that.
All right. Well, David, thanks for that terrific report. Okay, the next agenda item is governance, possible governance options. We had a lengthy discussion of this at our last panel meeting. The basic problem being that we are not a city. We don't have our own city government, so our land use policies are subject to the board of the Lee County Board of County Commissioners. And is there any way to get around that so that we could gain more control over our land use policies and not just be so dependent upon the county commissioners? In that discussion, the panel felt that there were two possible areas that maybe warranted further discussion, one being a possible annexation with Sanibel. Second, being creating Florida legislation that would designate Captiva as a special conservation district. This latter approach was done by Gasparilla Island back in 1980, where they were able to get a state law passed that specifies that makes Gasparilla a special conservation district, and as part of that establishes maximum building density on Gasparilla Island and maximum building height on Gasparilla, in order to ensure that Gasparilla Island remains ecologically sound over the long term. So that was the second option that, had some appeal. I volunteered at that meeting to try to open up dialogue with various people on those two options. I have been working on it. I've had some initial discussions with folks both related to Sanibel annexation and also related to the possibility of passing Florida legislation that would designate Captiva as a special conservation district. These discussions are, a very early exploratory stage, and I'm not really at liberty, and nor do I think it would be wise to make any comments about them right now, since we're just at the outset, of these possibilities, and I don't want to start a big rumor mill going, by making claims or something that may not prove out to be true in later discussion. So I hope we can just leave it that I'm working on this. I'm trying to make some progress on it. I think they're both probably long shots, but I think there's enough potential there to at least warrant trying to develop those alternatives further.
Mhm. Good with me. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to Verizon update. I did get an update from Carrie Burrows, who is the chief person at Verizon that is working on the project to improve our cell phone signal strength, and usage on Captiva Island. The current status of the project is that 2 of the small cell towers, have been erected to date. There's one near the northern part of Captiva Drive, just before you reach the Blind Pass stretch. And then there's another that's not too far after you just cross onto the island over Blind Pass. I'm sorry, when I said Blind Pass, I meant Tween Water Stretch. So there are 2 of them up now. I drive by them. I don't even see them. I think they, blend in very well with the landscape. I've heard no complaints about them. Kerry Burrows tells me that the projects are still moving along, and he expects that the project will be completed by the end of the first quarter next year. So that would be March of 2024, about 5 months from now. So I think, this has been a long process, but, Verizon has listened to us. They've put a lot of effort into this, and based on my conversation a week ago with Kerry Burrows, I think this is going to happen, and it's going to happen early in next year, that we will have at least one reliable cell carrier that will be available to people, on Captiva.
Jay, was it eventually 5 towers?
Five towers, right?
All right, 2.
3 on Captiva Drive, 1 on the Tween Water Stretch, and 1 adjacent to the community center.
Yeah. All right.
Jay, there's a question from the audience. Do these towers assist other carriers' reception?
No, it will not. They work only for Verizon.
I have a question just sort of for everybody, which is, I haven't had internet service for 3 or 4 days, and I've been calling Xfinity. I wondered if this is a why, and who says we're working on it, we'll let you know when. I wondered if other people are having basic cable service and internet service.
I had an issue last week with Comcast. They were out in our area for about 6 hours.
But beyond that, no?
But beyond that, no, I guess I've had a couple of brief periods, maybe a 5 or 10 minute duration where service, has been out.
I think I'm just special.
Well, you are that, Linda, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
There is a number you can call at Comcast and you can report a service outage and they'll right away be able to tell you if your problem is unique to your household or if there's a general outage in the area.
Oh, I've called those numbers and they say you're out and we'll tell you when they'll give you back. So I'll try some other things. Thanks.
Okay.
Jay, another question just came in. Where is the cell tower located at Twin Waters?
It is on the, I'm forgetting that. Tony, do you remember? I know you had a request to where you wanted it and we were able to comply with that request.
Yeah, it should be, and I haven't even noticed it if it's there, but I mean, I've been so
No, yours
focused on
isn't
the-
up yet, but it should be going up soon.
Yeah, it'll be actually where I've been trying to get that sign removed, the traffic one that fell down. It should be right between my southernmost part of the property and my neighbor, right there in that little nook.
Yeah, I remember that was reviewed specifically with Kerry Burrows, and he was in agreement that
Yeah.
we could have that tower there where you wanted it.
Exactly. Yeah, it isn't there yet, but I wish they'd get the other thing out there. We'll see. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jay.
I think these towers are fabulous and they're very, very unobtrusive. And if you do see it, it's attractive. So they're nice.
Yeah. Okay, next is wastewater committee update, which is also my project. The current status of the project is the project is in the hands now of Sanibel to complete 2 consulting studies. One of which is to determine how much increased processed wastewater would be created by Sanibel processing our wastewater and what would need to be done to handle that increased processed wastewater. And then the second study is an economic analysis of what costs would be added to Donax processing by servicing us and what would be the appropriate rates for them to be charging Captiva customers. So those were the 2 projects that were to be done by Sanibel. We were able to get Lee County to pay for both those projects. Lee County has given us, the cash to pay for those projects. I'm told by the city of Sanibel that the first consulting study, that one dealing with what to do with the increased processed wastewater, has been completed. I have a copy of it, but they're asking that that the study not yet be made public because Sanibel has not yet had a chance, to review it and make sure, they understand everything that's in it. I will tell you this, that in the study, it is a very large cost, to deal with the increased processed, wastewater. I don't want to go beyond that, at this point until, Sanibel staff has had an opportunity to review the study, discuss it, with the consultant and so forth. But that study is completed, but it's yet to be reviewed by Sanibel staff. I do not have a timetable yet for when they will begin the economic study. But I would just say in general, the total cost of the Sanibel partnership to handle Captiva's wastewater is becoming very, very expensive. And when we get the final costs, we're going to have to work with Kevin Ruane and see what kind of public funding assistance, will be available to do this. I don't think there's any way Captiva property owners on their own would be able to bear the cost of this. So, significant public assistance is going to be needed if this project is realized. So that's my report on wastewater. Any questions or?
I believe I saw something in the newspaper where the county commissioners were looking at more localized sewage treatment as alternatives. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I know just, from the people I talk to involved in, our legislature, they all seem to think that this is a very high priority, that Captiva needs to get off its reliance on septic systems. I think there's a lot of political support for this, but as the total costs of this become apparent, the costs are going to become an issue, is my prediction.
Jay, not to put you on the spot at all, but in a perfect world, if all the dominoes were to fall in the right direction, if everything were to fall in place, we'll be 3 to 4 years out.
Yeah, I would think so, but Tony, it's so hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it would take Sanibel maybe 3 or 4 months to do their projects, and they've been working on it over a year now.
Yeah, Ian got in the way probably a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
For
I mean,
sure.
Sanibel has so many issues now that they're working through. It's certainly understandable that figuring out the sewer partnership with Captiva is not at their top of their list of burning fires right now.
Yeah. So okay, I know because we're doing about $100,000 upgrade on our plant, which I figured I was going to do because we have to stay in compliance, and once I get done with that, it'll go another 20 years if I had to, but I just assumed not.
Yeah, I think, Tony, I can't believe it would take. It's got to be at least a 3-year process. I would think.
I would think so. Okay, thanks, Jen.
Sure. Okay, next, Stormwater Committee. Linda, I don't know if you have any comments. David, you had a recent comment or discussion with Kevin Ruane about paying for that. So I don't know who wants to speak on this, David or Linda, but go ahead.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, as everybody knows, we have a final proposal from Kimley Horn for about $200,000 to do a comprehensive engineering study for stormwater management in the village, which would take care of the flooding on Binder, on Captiva Drive, on the side streets, etc. And in the process, working with the county to come up with a construction plan that would work. And that is clearly an issue for resilience. It was, my understanding is that it was submitted through the county staff for funding. It's my understanding that the Commissioner Ruane has committed to having it funded. And my understanding is that the county manager's office is also committed to funding it. And so we're just waiting for final approval so that Kimley Horn can begin doing their study and we can move forward with the stormwater project in the village. So I'm optimistic that we should get funding confirmed within the next couple of weeks or month. That's my hope, and then we can get Kimley Horn working.
Linda, did you have any additional comments or?
Not really, except that when we're working on the Bayside, what we will need to do is integrate the planning and engineering of what we're doing on the Bayside with the Kimley Horn
When you say what you're doing on the Bayside, you're talking about your CEPD consulting study?
Right.
Yeah.
They will
Okay.
be doing engineering work, and some of it will be involving how do we drain out, or what do we do with the stormwater? Okay? So we'll just
Alrighty.
have to coordinate it. That's it.
Okay. Next up, iguanas. I don't know if there's anything new on that. Didn't, John Jensen, I guess this is your project. Are there any updates on it or?
No, Alfredo continues to come out Tuesday and Wednesday. He's getting 20 to 25 iguanas each day. He thinks this winter, if we get any cold weather, it's harder to get the iguanas, and he may cut back to 1 day, but he'll wait and see how that is. But
Do we have any idea if Alfredo getting 25 iguanas a week is making any kind of a dent in the iguana population here? Is there any way we could know that, or?
I don't know how you could tell. I guess it's just by looking around and getting a feel for it, unless it'd probably be hard to do an iguana count,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if people have been seeing, diminishment in iguanas sightings, but I don't seem to see a whole lot of them. I know there's hot spots, and Alfredo knows where those are, so he concentrates on those areas.
Okay. Next, development committee and possible welcome back cruise. Ann Brady, you here?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Jay. We're getting set for a welcome back cruise on Monday, January 22nd. Ken has sent out some information. We'll be sending out more as the move along. We have 3 restaurants committed for co-sponsorship. So thanks on this call to Tony and Sandy. And then we have 1 more that I have a request out to. So hopefully that would mean all the restaurants or the restaurant owners in Captiva, which I think sends a nice message. So yeah, we'll be selling tickets probably right after the holidays. And I'm sure we'll have a sold out crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather's going to be great.
We know that, sure.
So yes, we're on track.
Are there
And
any
also-
local dignitaries we should be inviting on this trip? Such as
Yes, and I've been in touch with David Mintz regarding those. But if you have any suggestions, just email me and we'll make sure that happens. We also will be doing.
I would say, Adam Botana, who is our state representative.
He would be great. And also Denise Carlin, she is running for superintendent of schools. And she's looking for opportunities to meet different people.
Okay. Okay. Well, like I said, if you have any other suggestions, just email me. And then we're going to do a fundraising letter, our annual fundraising letter that Ken's working on that will go out after Thanksgiving. And I don't know if Ken, if you want to speak to that.
No, I just have to sit down and write it.
Okay. All right. That's it.
When you get a draft of that, I would also be willing to give you a look at it.
I'm going to try to do that this week, and I'll send it to both of you.
Whether you want it or not, David.
No, we've been working very hard to raise funds for lots of organizations and lots of people and doing lots of things. And the panel, we have not been putting us forward as a major recipient of funds, but obviously this panel is very important to this community, and we shouldn't be bashful about that. And I want to make sure that we have enough funds to continue to function properly.
Well, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Because all anyone can say is no.
Right. No, and people won't say no. It's just that we haven't been asking. We've been doing our job without asking. And I think, we have to make sure that we ask when appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, we will. So that's it. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, Ken, you want to take us through the numbers?
Sure, they're included in your packet. Nothing of great surprise here. We are running a bit of a deficit for the year. We have the reserves to cover that, but we will want to get a letter out. So that's the incentive I have to get moving. And we still have the escrowed money for the county studies. I have contacted the city of Sanibel person who sent questions about that to give him directions on how to get paid. So hopefully
Okay.
we'll
So
get
you're
that
in
settled.
touch with Steve Chappell on that? Okay.
Yes. So unless anybody has any questions, that's all.
All righty. Well, I guess we've reached the end of our agenda items. Does anybody have anything else they wish to discuss? No.
Interesting that we didn't have a whole lot of people, on the line like we've had in the past. So I think everybody understands kind of what's going on. So I think that's a good thing, I think, in a sense.
Yeah.
Well, and I think David's been doing a good job of getting all the people to get information out to the community from the 3 different sources. So if they don't know about it, it's not for lack of trying. So I think we had people on who stayed until David's update was done. I think they wanted to hear if there was anything new, but I believe most people feel like they're probably getting a lot of information and are now going to be waiting for kind of marching orders for the 6th.
Right.
I couldn't believe that the county attorney's letter to the state. I just thought that was off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's hard to understand, Tony.
Yeah. Okay.
It really is. Do we have anything outstanding from the audience, Ken?
We do not.
Okay, well, I will accept a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Happy Thanksgiving. I make the motion.
Okay.
Yes, same to you all.
Okay, thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jay. Thanks, everyone.